Hey y'all, Carolina Tony here.
And Debbie.
We are standing on a battlefield that happened in June of 1876 that will become known as Custers' last stand. We are not going to attempt to give you a history lesson because this particular portion of our American history is very long and very complicated. But we're going to show you some of the things that are here and tell you a little bit about it. We'll get started right after this station identification. This is known as Custer's Last Stand Hill. The remains of about 220 soldiers, scouts, and civilians are buried around the base of this memorial. The white marble headstones scattered over the battlefield denote where the slain troopers were found and originally buried. In 1883, they were reinterred in a single grave on this site. The officers' remains were removed in 1877 to various cemeteries throughout the country. General Custer was buried at West Point, or at least they think he was. They just buried bones. They wasn't 100% sure it was his. So supposedly this is where they made their last stand. And this is inside the American Indian Memorial. Power through unity. Enos Poor Bear, Senior, Lakota. We did not ask you white men to come here. The Great Spirit gave us this country as a home. You had yours. We did not interfere with you. We do not want your civilization. Ta Sunkan Wiki, Crazy Horse. They came on us like a thunderbolt. I did not think it possible that any white man would attack us, so strong as we were. Low Dog, Dakota. It was a terrible battle, a hard battle, because both sides were brave warriors. Red Feather, Lakota. I was present there and tried to cross the river. As the troops were crossing the river, the Indians kept killing them all right long. Jacob Tallbull, Cheyenne, 1898. And these are just a few of the quotes that were quoted by the survivors of this great battle. Two other Cheyenne warrior. These were actually teenage brothers that were killed here. Limber Bones and Closed Hand died while defending the Cheyenne way of life. 7th Cavalry Horse Cemetery in memory of the 7th Cavalry horses killed during Custer's last stand. 4 years after the battle, this monument was erected. It would be many, many years later until a memorial was erected to the real Americans. Scenic is in the Badlands of South Dakota. Look out there. It looks like, for the most part, Scenic is abandoned.
Turn right onto 2nd Street, then turn right.
At one time, this was a museum of natural history. Look all around us. This is Wounded Knee. This is the town. There's not much here. And as you can see by just looking around the landscape, there's a very poor area. I wanted to call your attention to this reduction of the Great Sioux Reservation from 1868 to 1890. In 1868, you can see how big the Sioux land was. A new agreement came about in 1876, and it shrunk. And then in 1889, it shrunk even more. Unfortunately, a lot of my data from the Wounded Knee and Little Bighorn didn't turn up. It was part of what was not able to be recovered. But as far as Wounded Knee goes, I'll tell you, it makes you really sick to your stomach when you see and you read the history that happened there. That hundreds of Native Americans, men, women, children, unarmed, were butchered by our government. And it took them 100 years to issue an apology. In fact, the atrocity that occurred even got congressional medals of honor to some of the officers that were there. It's just really sickening that this stuff even went on in our past, and it's terrible. When you go to national parks and national battlefields, you see all kinds of fancy bronze-plated signs and all. But here at Wounded Knee, all that the Indians got was a sign painted by hand on wood, held up by some metal posts. It's pretty pitiful. Treaty after treaty was broken. Every time that it was clear that the Indians would prosper by something, whether it be the buffalo on the land or gold on the land, the rules changed, and they got the short end of the stick. The winds were really high the day we were there filming, so that's why I'm doing this voiceover, so you can hear. You couldn't hear anything we were saying on camera while we were there. But this, you have to take in mind, this is out on the open plains. December 29th, 1890, Chief Bigfoot and his Mini Kochu and Huckapah Sioux band of 106 warriors, 250 women and children were encamped on this flat, surrounded by the 7th Cavalry, 470 soldiers commanded by Colonel Forsyth. The Messiah craze posseed many Indians who left the vicinity of the agencies to ghost dance during the summer and fall of 1890. Unrest on Pine Ridge Reservation was partly due to the reduction of beef rations by Congress and to the ghost dancing of chiefs Sitting Bull, Hump, Bigfoot, Kicking Bear, and Short Bull. The Sioux were told by Kicking Bear and Short Bull that wearing ghost shirts, the ghost dancing warriors were become immune to the white man's bullets and could openly defy the soldiers and white settlers and bring back the old days of the big buffalo herds. On November the 15th, 1890, Indian agent Royer Lakota Quotes at Pine Ridge called for troops, and by December the 1st, 1890, several thousand U.S. regulars were assembled in this area of Dakota Territory. By December the 15th, 1890, Chief Sitting Bull was killed by Lieutenant Bullhead of the Standing Rock Indian Police. 40 of Sitting Bull's braves escaped from Grand River and joined Chief Bigfoot's band on Deep Creek to camp and ghost dance on the South Fork of the Cheyenne River. Chief Bigfoot was under close scrutiny of Lieutenant Colonel Sumner and his troops, and on December the 23rd, 1890, they were ordered to arrest Bigfoot as a hostile. However, Bigfoot, his band had already silently slipped away from the Cheyenne country into the Badlands, heading for Piney. Without a struggle, Chief Bigfoot surrendered to the U.S. Cavalry Major Whitesides at the site marked 5 miles north of here. The band was then escorted to Wounded Knee, camping that night under guard. Reinforcements of the U.S. 7th Cavalry, including one company of Indian Scouts, arrived at Wounded Knee from the Pine Ridge Agency on the morning of December 29, 1890. Colonel Forsyth took command of the force of about 470 men. A battery of 4 Hotchkiss guns was placed on the hill, 450 feet west from here, overlooking the Indian encampment.
Bigfoot's band was encircled by 9 a.m., a line of foot soldiers and cavalry. Chief Bigfoot, sick with pneumonia, lay in a warm tent provided by Colonel Forsyth in the center of the camp. A white flag flew there, placed by the Indians. Directly in the rear of the Indian camp was a dry draw running east and west. The Indians were ordered to surrender their arms before proceeding to Pine Ridge. Captain Wallace, with an army detail, began searching the teepees for hidden weapons. During this excitement, Yellowbird, a medicine man, walked along the ridge. On December the 28th, 1890, the braves, blowing on an eagle whistle, enticing the warriors to action, declaring that the ghost shirts worn by the warriors would protect them from the soldiers' bullets. A shot fired and all hell broke loose. The troops fired a deadly volley into the council warriors, killing nearly half of them. A bloody hand-to-hand struggle followed, all the more desperate since the Indians were armed mostly with clubs, knives, and revolvers. The Hotchkiss guns fired 12-pound explosive shells on the group, indiscriminately killing warriors, women, and children, and their own disarming soldiers. Soldiers were killed by crossfire of their own comrades in this desperate engagement. Surviving Indians stampeded in wild disorder for the shelter of the draw 200 feet to the south, escaping west and east of the draw and down north of Wounded Knee Creek, pursued by the 7th Cavalry, resulting in the killing of more men, women, and children, causing this battle to be referred to as the Wounded Knee Massacre. Later, 146 Indian men, women, and children lay dead in the Wounded Knee Creek Valley. The bodies of many were scattered along a distance 2 miles from the scene of the encounter. 20 soldiers were killed on the field, and 16 later died from wounds. Wounded soldiers and Indians alike were taken to the Pine Ridge Agency. A blizzard came up. 4 days later, an army detail gathered up the Indian dead and buried them in a common grave on top of the northeast hill here. A monument marks this grave. Ghost dancing ended with the encounter. The Wounded Knee battlefield is the site of the last armed conflict between the Sioux Indians and the United States Army.
It is on this site, on the top of this hill, is a mass grave of all of the Native American people that was massacred by the cavalry. And I'll add, not only massacred, was mutilated by the cavalry. Nearly 300 men, women, and children.
We were told by some of the locals that it wouldn't be appropriate for us to enter the cemetery, but it would be okay for us to film from outside, so that's what we did. We hope you've learned a lot from this video. I know we learned a lot making it. Be sure to share this video with your family and friends, and until next time, y'all have a good day.